Well, hello there. How are you doing? It's time
Hi.
for a brand new episode of the Tribunal. Good to see you, sis. Did you not hear me?
No,
Yeah, I said good to see you, sis.
it's good to see you, sis. No, for a second there was a cacophony of sound, and then it went silent. But
Well,
now I'm up to
hopefully
snuff.
you won't have too many cacophonies of sound as we move forward.
I hope so.
Um, yeah, I
I'm doing
mean,
okay.
here's the thing, it's the internet. Stuff's gonna happen. We're just gonna roll through it as best as we possibly can.
Roll
I
through the
mean,
punches.
we just go with it. We just go with it. We have a lot to talk about on the tribunal today. It's a lot of weighty stuff, so we don't want to uh, make it sound like it's not, because it is. But hopefully, we'll have some good conversation about what we're talking about today. So we got a couple heavies, and then one not so heavy, but still a moment that deserves to be acknowledged. So there's that. Where we are going to start is where we have to start, simply because we haven't had a tribunal since everything happened in Kenosha, but we definitely have to talk about Kenosha and what has happened there, because here we are yet again with another unarmed Black man who has been severely injured. I will say, luckily, not killed, but it almost doesn't feel right to even say that. But it is lucky that he was not killed, because he was shot in the back 7 times and currently is paralyzed. So we are talking about Jacob Blake and Kyle Rittenhouse and everything that happened in Kenosha. I want to say that I don't want to spend too much time on this because frankly I'm exhausted. I don't know about you, sis.
Yeah, I'm fed up.
Um
Like
um
I have nothing else to give to this. Like the emotions that I had at the beginning of all this are still here, and they haven't been mitigated. They haven't been, softened. I'm done. Been done. Have been done. Will forever be done until we don't have to even be done. And even then I'll still be done.
yeah, that's basically where I'm at, but with not as many nice words to say
I
it.
mean,
But
I'm being polite, but
you're being
no.
super polite. I'm angry. I'm exhausted. I'm done with all the excuses and everyone that defends these specific individuals that have harmed or killed other unarmed people. I don't have space anymore to listen to defense.
Yeah. Like I have no space. I am full,
And,
and no one seems to want to delete stuff. So
and
my process is running chunky right now. Like I
so
just can't
so
get through shit.
so where I sit right now is that I take nothing against I hold nothing against officers who are doing their best and assessing situations and trying to de-escalate, and when that doesn't work and that there's a actual real threat to their well-being, react to preserve oneself. Everybody has the right to try and be safe and defend themselves when they are being attacked and threatened with harm. I'm not saying that you don't have the right to do that, whether you have a badge or you don't. Let me be very clear about that. But I'm just so tired of seeing over and over and over again unarmed people being hurt or killed, and seemingly there's no justice and no consequence. for those actions.
For those particular individuals, because if the
For
roles
those
were
particular,
reversed, things would
not
be
just those
I
individuals, but the whole situation.
right.
We are over what, 150 days, 60 days now since Breonna Taylor was murdered, and not a single charge has been filed. Not a single charge. This was a person asleep in their bed in their homes, and they were killed
Yep.
during
And
and
I believe in those the police reports with that, like they did like a dossier on her, and she was not a threat. Their documentation said she was not going to be a threat if like things went to shit.
oh, they weren't even in the right place. Like, they went to the wrong
Right.
house. Like, there's so many things about Brianna's case and situation. They offered a plea deal to her, or I should say, her boyfriend who was living with her was offered a plea deal, and in the plea he would get 10 years, but he would have to say that in court and on paper that Brianna was involved in gang activity and drug smuggling, so as to make okay
The
everything that
fact that they
happened.
killed her,
And he refused to take the deal, and
good.
rightfully so. But when you look at, the whole scope of all those things, you know he was a couple of months away from proposing to her. Like, he's has shared the ring with people. Like, that entire life of them
Gone.
together is gone. And Jacob Blake's life is forever changed. Forever changed. Because he may be paralyzed for the rest of his life. And he was shot in front of his young children. Like, we have to at some point admit, as human beings, that these situations that we can't keep seeing over and over and over again, all across the country, all across the country, are indicative of a bigger problem that we need to address. Plain and simple. If you don't want to have it as a conversation about race, that's fine. But so then let's have, I mean, it's not fine, but I'll accept as a starting point then, let's talk about excessive violence within the police force. Because if you want to wipe away all of the race that is heavily influenced and involved in all these cases, I don't think that there's one that you can look at and go, okay, well, this isn't excessive force. So then let's have an excessive force conversation. And as human beings, let's look at each of these situations, the Elijah McClains and the George Floyds and the Michael Browns and the Tamir Rices. Let's look at all of those just through the vein of excessive voice and tell me that there's not a problem then in the system. You can't say that there's not.
Nope. I can't. I absolutely cannot.
It's just that when you pair excessive violence with the racism piece, it is just a compounding, disappointing, and fearful situation for a massive chunk of our community. And that makes it an even bigger problem that we need to address. And we can't, as good citizens of the world, anymore as individuals, turn a blind eye to it. We have to address it head on. We have to make reform. We have to make changes. We have to look at each of these situations and put the right professionals in the place to deal with everything. I don't believe that police officers need to show up for every domestic abuse potential call. I think social workers, possibly with a police backup,
I was
would
just
be
going to
a
say,
much better
have them in a
complement.
support position and not the first knock on the door.
Correct. And I think that even in those situations, if there is any kind of violent escalation, everything first should be from a place of trying to de escalate that happening first and then moving on from there. And that's not to say that there aren't times where force is needed. People have weapons. People sometimes can't be reasoned with for many, many reasons. I absolutely support the use of force in those situations. But we have to start someplace with reforming what is happening. Because when you end up in a situation where after a man is shot 7 times in the back
In the back.
and people are protesting because they don't agree with it, and you have a situation where people come from out of state with assault rifles in their possession, which is illegal, and you end up in a situation where two people, really three, tried to de escalate that situation and wound up with two of those people dead and one of them heavily wounded. And a big chunk of people are defending the alleged assailant. We have to admit that we have a problem, and we have to start having really difficult conversations with our friends, with our peers, within our communities about really who we are and what's acceptable and what's not. I don't sleep better because people like Jacob Blake took 7 bullets to the back. I don't sleep well because of that.
I don't sleep well knowing that someone could kick through my door and shoot blindly into a home with no cause and kill me. Like my home, which is supposed to be the safest place to me, now isn't even that anymore. Like it's not.
So shout out Tricky. Thank you so much for joining us today for our
Hi.
tribunal. I am going to move on from this because it's just exhaustive. I don't have any more energy to give. I'm all out of sadness and rational thought and energy. Now I just have anger and fear. And that's not a great combination ever for
At least
anybody to have.
I'd say at least you still have that. Like it's really it's really sad. You know, like when I sit here and I think about it, like all of it. Like the constant barrage. Like if you do something enough, eventually you get used to it. And that's a dangerous place to be right now. Like, and a lot of us have always just kind of rolled with it like, oh, this is just the way that it is. And granted, that's not a healthy mindset. Because, you know, if you were in like an abusive relationship or a toxic friendship, you know, you have every right to leave that,
Mhm.
right? Like, and here we are in this toxic relationship with our society. And as much as we all want to pull away, the avenues to do that are practically not present. So we are kind of forced to sit in the mud and trudge, and we're expected to be like, hey, that's just what it is, that's your mud, that's where you stand, like everyone else gets like a sidewalk but you don't. And you know, like I'm just worried that I'm becoming complacent isn't the right word, but like I'm just numb. Like I'm just like, yep, that happened, sure.
You know, Doc Rivers, who is an amazing coach, said something earlier. I can't remember if it was this week or last week because it all kind of runs together for me. But he said, really painfully, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's so hard to see how this country that we love so much doesn't love us back. And when you think about the history of this country and so many people emigrating from all over the globe here, trying to get a fresh start at life, start on a level playing field, and build something, and take pride in their efforts to build that thing for themselves. That takes love, that takes devotion, that takes dedication. I still love America, but I just have to really admit to myself now, America doesn't love me back. Not the way that I love it. Because I just keep seeing over and over and over and over again. And not just in the news, in my local community, in memories that I have growing up, experiences that I've had, I've just repeatedly, over and over and over again, gotten that you're not loved, you're not wanted, you're not valued. And so much of it I've, put in little buckets and compartmentalized away. Chunk of it I went through therapy and dealt with, which I highly
Therapy is great.
recommend.
If you need
Therapy
therapy, it's wonderful.
therapy
Go
is
get you
wonderful.
some. Go get you
Get
some.
some. Even if you don't think you need therapy, you need therapy.
Hey, first
It's
session's usually complimentary, so like see if it's up your
eh,
alley.
get it going.
Try
But
it out.
the thing that I would say, and that I encourage, people to talk about with their friends, and also listen to what you really get back. What do you really think about what we're seeing in our country and how we value its citizens? Because we need to be honest about how we are valuing ourselves as a country. And not just when it comes to police brutality and the criminal justice system, which are really big ones that we do need to focus on. But when you look at the global stage, as far as we treat mental health, health care, how we treat minimum wage, how we treat maternal and paternity leave,
What is
personal
paternity
time
leave?
off. When you look at the global stage of how other countries and cultures really seem to value the individual and therefore have built things in systemically to support the individual. If we are really the land of the free and home of the brave, and we really want to be the beacon of life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness for all, then we need to be taking the actions to make those things true for all.
I think the all, like particularly right now with what's going on, like I wonder if we looked at the declaration if there was like a little asterisk after all, and then down at the bottom of it, it was like not including, and then a barrage of everyone that this all is not inclusive. Like I don't know if at the time it was written. Actually, no. I know at the time that it was written that yeah, minorities, particularly black folks, weren't seen as people. So therefore, if you are not deemed a person,
We weren't
therefore
in the
you're not.
all. You're not in the all. Like, so
We were never in the all to begin with. So they
bullet
never should have.
dodged.
So they should never have used the word at all. I mean, also
Look,
women weren't a part of that either. So I mean, double
look.
bullets there.
That's
But
why. That's why you have amendments and all those kinds of things, because
have we
you
had a
grow. And
serious amendment to our
we haven't
constitution? I
had
don't
one. We haven't had an amendment added in our lifetimes.
like.
But you know what?
Maybe we need to start spell checking and grammarlying the Constitution. I
Grammarly
think
can't
some
help the
amendment
situation.
needs to
Grammar's not the
happen.
problem. Okay?
The
Grammar's not the
syntax is,
problem.
lexicon is.
Understanding empathy and honesty.
Yeah, that's really, yeah. You're right.
So
I'm making a joke, but
I know,
I
and I
clearly really
appreciate the
shouldn't.
joke because I really needed to smile because right. So I trust me and believe I appreciate the joke, but um, I'm gonna move on from this because we have some other things to talk about, and one of them is also heavy, but I do want to find the joy in it. That's the goal. So we're gonna
Okay.
try. We're gonna try. But before
Find
we
the
get to that,
joy.
find the joy, and I'm gonna say it now, but later it'll make more sense and catch the rain.
Okay.
So as I was going through all of my social feeds, I've done a pretty good job of actually muting out in the social feeds that I consume most heavily the politics stuff because I'm just done with that. I know what is important to me, and so I know the actions that I'm going to take. What I will say at a top level, because politics isn't something that plays on Twitch, is simply vote. That's all.
Right.
But one thing that came across my social feed this week was that Tyler Perry had officially become a billionaire. And the article broke down all of his holdings, his assets. Uh, that's not to say that he's liquid a billionaire, but as far as his total net worth, Tyler Perry is now a billionaire. And so the smart ass in me for a hot second was like, of course, Medea had to be the one to join the Black Billionaires Club, right? And then I paused and I went, stop.
I almost
Looking right at
laughed.
you. I'm
I
looking right
almost
at you.
laughed.
And I went, remember where Tyler Perry came from. Okay, before his stage plays really started getting accolades
Notice?
and finding their audiences and actually becoming profitable. This was a man who was living in his car and was writing in his car. And so take that person and now move 30 years down the road and they have made it onto the billionaires list.
The Fortune 500, Forbes.
It's Forbes's list
Okay.
because he's not a Fortune 500 company, right?
Well, I mean, with the studio, if he works hard, like that could happen.
Well, I mean, so I don't know. I would have to double check, but I don't believe that private owned entities can be on the Fortune 500. I believe
Oh,
you have to
okay.
be publicly traded. I could
Okay.
be wrong in that. So if I'm wrong in that, chat, let me know. But I believe for Fortune 500 companies, you have to be publicly traded. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But this is a person that has built their own production companies, has, whether you like it or not, as far as the approach, has controlled the writing rooms for all of his projects that he's put out into the world. And he's done many between stage, TV shows, movies, built his own studios. I mean, that is a massive thing. Reinvigorated and frankly created the big production focus in Georgia, specifically in Atlanta. You know, there are more TV shows being produced and coming out of Atlanta now than ever as a child. Like when I grew up, I remember like Culver City. That's where everything was made. It was either made in Culver City or was made in New York. Like that was it. Like everything that I could see and growing up as a kid, that's where it came from, you know? And now you have this huge hub in Atlanta, you had Turner Classic coming out of there. You had Adult Swim coming out of there. You now have Tyler Perry Studios, and so there are more and more movies that are being, produced and shot in coming out of Georgia. I mean, like there's so many movies, not just Tyler Perry movies that, like I see Little Georgia Peach. I'm like, oh, they used Georgia to be Seattle this time, or they used Georgia to be that part of Chicago. Like it's amazing. And always the a through thread in that is Tyler Perry, whether it was his production studio or writing team or exec producing or making connections. I mean, you got to give props where they're due. The man has become a powerhouse, a huge powerhouse in entertainment. And so I stopped myself with the quick joke because I'm like, there we go again. There I go again. Their ice is colder, like making the joke. And I was like, stop, Rochelle. You just stop right now in this moment. You need to give this man his props. Like right now. Okay. So snaps from Mr. Tyler Perry, because the Black Billionaires Club is an extremely exclusive club.
Elusive.
Okay. It is real difficult to make that list.
We can't even look at the list. The list is exclusive.
It might only be four, actually. Like there's like, as far as
So
US.
So it's like a quartet. It is the Black Billionaires Quartet.
I believe so.
As of right now.
As of right now. Right? And so I don't want to take anything away from the man. Snaps to the man. Congratulations on your with a capital. Get that shmoney. Do your thing. But please, I ask for me. I just no more Madea movies.
I
watched Acrimony. Like I just keep exec producing.
It's weird though, right? Because like I want to talk a little bit about this because I feel like there's a big slanted line on Tyler Perry fans and not Tyler Perry fans.
There's a very distinct line.
Very distinct. And I mean, I think when the Madea movies first came out, like our mother, she ate those up. She enjoyed those. And I didn't get it. Like I was like, Mom, I don't understand why you find this so entertaining. And I think later when he started doing the Tyler Perry Presents, which were like more of the drama-y, not so comic, gimmicky story, I was like, ooh, okay, I can get I'm on this side of the line. So like Medea's not my personal favorite, but if it happens to be on and I happen to catch one of the riffs like between her and Cletus, like I'll sit and be like, yeah, that's reminiscent of an aspect of our family. Then I'm like, like I can have a laughy moment with it, but I don't have to sit in it because I sit in that every day. It's an experience. Like, well, not now because of COVID, but like it's a familiar place. Whereas in all of the Tyler Perry Presents, like, The Family That Prays and like, Acrimony. I mean, that movie was just like, I'm just mad. I am rage personified. Don't fuck with me. and watching that, I was like, ooh, I'm like already from the beginning, like that rage was deep seated. Like there was no rooting that out. No. But I mean, and I argued or debated with our mom a lot about like, why? Because she was she liked both sets, but like she'd always be like, "Oh, there's the new Madea movie. We should go see this in theaters." And I was like, I can wait till it's on HBO. Like I don't have to rush. I'm gonna watch it. I don't need to go to the theater for it. But I do remember seeing some of the Tyler Perry Presents in theater with her. And I mean, yes, I think I sat on the line of, oh, okay, well, I'm like, he found his thing, it's great. But very much like you, I think I just kind of let that roll off my shoulder and I did not give it the proper attention that it clearly deserved.
Well, I
Um,
think the important piece about it is because I don't like shitting on other people's art, right? Like that's not what I'm trying to do here at all. It's just I don't really enjoy the character. I know what he's trying to do. I know what it harkens back to, and there are absolutely some times where like cleverly in the one-offs, like the comedy is there. I appreciate all of that. I just don't enjoy most of the Medea movies, like from beginning to end,
right,
and for me, I did see, I can't even remember what it is now, but back when I was living in DC, I did see one of the stage plays where, Medea was I don't want to say a bit character, but wasn't a protagonist, and was there as the comedy relief to kind of balance off the other real shit that was being dealt
right.
with in the
But
relationship.
I think
And that
moving it from that to a movie, like you kind of have to give it you have to give it a protagonist. You have to give it a viewpoint in.
Well, I just
And
feel like, for like we've talked about before, I just feel like Medea got Urkelized, right? Like it was this bit over here that was designed to be, I don't want to say a scenery character, but wasn't. But because so many people honed in on it, was like, oh, I remember that standout. It went, okay, well, we'll shift this around now, and now this will become the focus instead of these other things. And that's where I was just like, that's not where I would have put the focus for me. And
right.
so I'm
I mean,
not a fan
I
of
don't even
where
know
this
if
is
I feel like
going.
Medea is actually really, I mean, like I think a lot of the movies with her in them, even though like her name is the biggest on the marquee, like in the design, like it's
You
always
didn't
Medea
watch
and
Boo.
well, I mean, right. No, Boo was the biggest. I saw the art for Boo, but I did not watch Boo. No, did
Mm.
could not get behind that one. I'm sorry.
So again, not shitting on anything. I
We're
really
right.
just want to and wanted to acknowledge this is actually a very big deal. And I only saw a few outlets actually running with the story, and that really didn't sit well with me, which is why I was like, no, I'm going to talk about it this week, and I'm going to share like my honest, like knee jerk reaction, because I think it's important that, when we think about successes within the Black community, oftentimes they're shared in small pockets, but aren't shared out in a big way, right? We
Right.
hear about a somebody, creating a grant or whatever, but we don't hear the follow-up stories about who those grants went to and how that actually has affected in a positive way the community. We hear about and we see, the dance videos from that Clark school down in Atlanta, but we don't actually, get the follow up story of how many of those students actually went on to go to really good higher education schools, and so it's kind of the sensationalized thing gets the mass attention, but
And
the
then it burns out.
and then it burns out, but we don't actually get like the nugget of the thing that actually is a big deal and moves people forward. The fact that, you know, now with this one, Tyler Perry Studios, which, by the way, if you didn't see the Monica and Brandy versus, which was filmed at Tyler Perry Studios, you should fix your life, get on YouTube and do that. But I digress. But when you think about, what Tyler Perry Studios now does, there is a major motion picture studio owned by a Black man in Atlanta that is creating jobs in this COVID economy, that it is, creating a space to celebrate Black creators and creators of color. There's now another resource so that you don't necessarily have to, quote unquote, play the Hollywood game. There is now another option that has all of the stuff that was available at Culver Studios, which, by the way, got raised because of all the fires and stuff and the damage that was done. So Culver Studios isn't even Culver Studios like it was in the past before. And so now there is the option of, hey, there is this studio that I can get really good VFX teams at. They have all of the same bells and whistles that are in California, that are in New York. They're now in Atlanta and they're accessible. And that is a very, very big deal. So I just want to take this time to shine that light and celebrate that that exists. You know, for me, that is another kind of item of, yeah, we are rebuilding Black Wall Street in a way, because here's another business, here's a place that we can play and be celebrated and deal with people who understand our community, people who understand the backgrounds that we're coming from, the stories that we want to tell, and have all of the technology, the sound studios, the talent coming in the door to help deliver those things. That's a big deal. So I just want to, again, snaps, do your thing, brother, because I see you and I appreciate you.
It is
That,
nice. It's nice that in this very dark cloud that is hovering overhead, that I mean has been rolling off in the distance, has always been present in the sky, starting to see these thin silver threads around it. Like it's now beginning to kind of shape and define it, which for someone who, you know, kind of has lost faith along the way that things were ever going to get better. I mean, I was very much in the mindset of it's only going to get worse from here,
right.
and I should just brace for this impact because whether I like it or not, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And to see these little sprouts of, progress, positivity, acknowledgement. Now we're that toleration that I think people were confusing with acceptance is
Mm-hmm.
now kind of becoming transparent, and people are beginning to see through that. Oh, we were thinking this was this, but it's actually this in disguise, and we need to figure out why we are attached to that, and how do we rearrange those letters and actually really make it acceptance. Like,
Right.
how do we get
Right.
there?
Right. And
So
that's important, that distinction between tolerance and acceptance is a big one. And
it's a big jump.
I think that's really the space, when I think about it as a whole, that's where we need to be putting in the work, right? If you boil all the things that are going on, there's a difference between tolerance and acceptance. And I think if we put in the work and we have the hard discussions, which are definitely going to be at times more passionate than others, they're going to be more uncomfortable. It
Yep.
is going to require people to listen and go away to actually digest and process everything that they listen to and then come back. And that's going to have to be a bidirectional thing. So, for the people who are seeking the knowledge and don't understand but want to, they also have to be in a place where they feel comfortable putting on the table where they're coming from and what they're thinking and where the gaps in their knowledge and understanding are. And that makes people very vulnerable. And not everybody is good at or comfortable with being vulnerable, but we have to be if we're going to understand each other and then together move forward, right? And at the
Agreed.
end of the day, that's what we want to do, is understand each other and then together move forward. So I'm going to transition us at this point to our last subject for today, which was in the title, because I said this is the one about Chadwick Boseman and stuff. So we did the stuff so we could focus on Chadwick.
Ron Chadwick Boseman, yeah.
Um, so I had mentioned earlier in this week when I did my Wednesday wind down that we were going to be talking about Chadwick today. And there was no way that we could not talk about Chadwick Boseman. So if you are somehow not aware, Chadwick passed away. The world definitely feels different. But he had been battling colon cancer for 4 years. And lost his battle on August 28th, I think it was. And the world was in shock because it felt like the world didn't know. We didn't know. Very few people knew. And so where I
Yeah,
want to
he fought that privately. He did not make that a very known ish thing.
it was not a known-ish thing, as we've come to learn in, the days afterwards. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about, first how things hit me and how I started to process, and then things that I started to see like happening in social spaces and online, and both positive and negative, and kind of, just as a group talk about the man, the work, these things, and what we learn from that and what we take away from it. So I'm actually going to start with, kind of a takeaway actually for me from all of this, because when I first saw the news, I actually was up late, surprise, surprise, and I saw this photo pop up on my Instagram feed first. And I was like, wow, that's a dope photo of Chad Boseman smiling. And I, had seen some of the reviews for The Five Bloods, which is the piece that he did with Spike Lee. And so I immediately thought, oh, maybe this is somebody who was like praising like Spike's performance in The Five Bloods, because most of the reviews that I had read were like, this really isn't like Spike at his greatest. And I had not yet watched it on
I have
Netflix.
not watched it yet, but I'm going to.
And then I read the caption, because Instagram is image first and
It's
then
image
text.
first, text later.
And I read the caption and I had to stop because I was like, this can't be true, because this says that I, they're sad to tell me that 43-year-old Chadwick Boseman has passed away from colon cancer. I was like, I didn't even know he was sick. What do you mean he had colon cancer? What do you mean he's dead? What do you mean? Like that,
What do you mean?
right? Like that was the whole thought process in that time when I read the text, and I was like, okay, so the internet has always got jokes. So hold on, let me actually do some Google searching, because if this is actually for real, then real press outlets will have this story, because they wouldn't have been scooped by somebody on Instagram. And then my heart sank the moment that I typed in his name, because the first result that came up was from the New York Times confirming that he had passed. And then that's what, like, I didn't even read the article. I was like, holy shit, he's actually dead. And instantly this wave of sadness came over me. Now, I've never met this man in my life, right?
Neither have
Like,
I. I
I
would have
I
loved to.
I absolutely would have loved to have met Chadwick Boseman, but I never met him in my life. We'd never had a conversation. This wasn't somebody that I knew personally. And yet I felt the loss of his life very personally. And I was like, wow, like, and I didn't even like, in all honesty, my first thought wasn't Black Panther is dead. Like, my first thought was like, holy shit, Chadwick Boseman is dead from cancer, and like nobody knew that he was fighting this cancer. So like how did we not know? Because I remember seeing on social like some photos of him recently, like out and about, and he looked really thin, and people were like making fun of him for being thin, and other people were like, oh, he must be like trying to get weight or something for a role. And that's what my brain thought. I was like, oh, he's probably a method actor, like, Tom Hanks and whatever, and so he's probably trying to get skinny for some role. And
Christian Bale method,
like my
yeah.
exactly, my brain it never occurred to me that he could be sick, because, and I thought really long about this, like the most recent movies that I have seen him in, the most recent things that I've seen him in, he has been this larger than life character or person that actually existed, right? Like I put out a post after I cried, because I did cry, and I make no bones about it. I felt that loss deeply, and like before I could really put my thoughts together and put something out on social, I one of my favorite comedians on the planet is Amanda Seales, and she jumped on live. No vanity of self, was in the same place. She was just wrecked, and she it was obvious that she had been crying, like she was in her pajamas in her bedroom, and she was like, I just don't know what to do. Like, y'all, maybe we should just pray. Maybe we just pray right now. Let's just like I gotta do something and I don't know what to do. And so like I sat there, for 3 minutes, and I prayed. I haven't prayed in a long time, but I prayed for peace, and I prayed for guidance, and I prayed for his family. And then I said, and I pray for everybody that their lives have been touched and changed in some small or even some large way because of this person and the talent and the work that they did. And then I went to back to my Facebook page, and my wall is just filling up with people, just I mean, really from all different kinds of backgrounds, working professionals to, friends of mine who are still in school because they're younger. And it's just all of this stuff of what Chadwick meant to them, either as the Black Panther, or, what he meant to them as a HBCU alum who was successful, or it's just all these different reasons. And I shared on my own personal feed the first thing that I ever saw Chadwick in, which was 42, which is the Jackie Robinson story. And so here was this guy that I didn't know from Adam. I'd never seen him in anything else. I know that he had been in a bunch of things, before that. He had written a bunch of plays. I didn't know that about him. But I saw him first in 42. And his performance as Jackie Robinson absolutely was breathtaking to me. It was breathtaking. Like there are very few movies where I get lost in the movie. I got lost in that movie. And
Oh, like it like transported you. Like you
it
were
did.
completely
And
amongst it.
right, and not just his performance, but everyone that was in that movie brought you into that movie, and you felt everything that every character was going through in that movie. You felt it, and that was because of what the director and what all of these actors were able to do. And I remember thinking at the end of this movie, wow, that guy was amazing. Like I hope he's in
Did
more
you did
stuff
you see
because
him? Did you see him in Marshall?
yeah. So, so sis, you're not going to be able to see this, but I actually have a little slideshow of stuff that he's in. So as we continue talking with him, I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between
Okay.
um, us and that kind of going. But like, yeah, it did. Like, I became infatuated with Chadwick after seeing him in 42. And so I made it a point of any of the other things that he was in that I could have access to make sure I watched him in. So I watched Get On Up when he played James Brown, and I was like, how is this dude going to be James Brown, because like James has a
The only
very
per- the
specific
only per- the
voice,
only person who could be James Brown is James Brown.
right?
How? How?
Like how do you do this? Like how do you become James Brown? Because the way that that man carried himself, his voice, his delivery, how he spoke, his mannerisms, not just how he performed, like that was an embodiment of an entertainer. And I was like, I don't know that anybody could really be James Brown other than James Brown. But Chadwick put in the work, and like I don't know that anybody could attempt to play James Brown except for Chadwick at that point, you know? And his performance was absolutely amazing. And yet again, I was brought into the movie because of the performances of everybody in that movie. And then he was Thurgood Marshall and Marshall, and my God, I knew a bit about Thurgood Marshall. All of the super top high level, I don't want to say crap, but it's not the full story that the
Right. The
man
very high
deserved,
level, not a
that
deep
we're taught.
dive.
It's
Right.
not. It's just like, hey, Thurgood Marshall was the first Black Supreme Court judge. Oh my God, that is amazing. Okay, great. And that's why there's
Okay,
schools
good.
named
Moving
after him.
on.
Hold on. There's a whole lot that you're leaving out on, like how he actually got to be a Supreme Court
Oh
judge.
no,
And
we don't
that,
want it. We don't want to know about how much he struggled to get it. We just want to let you know that there was one. It's
yeah,
going to be
so
on the
like,
test.
quit your
Remember the
bitching,
name.
remember the name. And if you can't remember the name, remember there's like a school named after him in pretty much at least one in most major cities. So like you should be able to remember the school. And or if you can't
Right.
remember that, at least remember, the amp maker, right? That one actually pissed me off. I actually had a teacher who was like, just remember the amps that we have downstairs in the AV room if you can't remember it. And I was like, really?
Okay,
Really, bro?
whatever.
Okay.
Whatever.
But I
Ah,
saw him in Marshall, and I was like, yet again, like here's my boy killing it. So when it was announced that he was going to be the Black Panther in Civil War, I was like, yeah, yeah. Because I had remembered like when Marvel first announced phase three, that Black Panther was getting a movie. So when I saw that my boy was going to be him in Civil War, I'm like, well, he's
clearly going to
obvious.
be.
He's Black Panther. Now, just he's Black Panther. And I'm so here for it because, yeah, of course, my homeboy here can deliver. And he did. He
And he did.
delivered in
In
Civil
spades.
War. He delivered in Infinity War. He delivered in Endgame. He delivered in Black Panther. Ryan Coogler delivered in Black Panther. And so for me, it was just like, here are all these, this huge history of so many people who are important to me and my culture historically, that this person has brought to life in film forevermore for people in beautiful, beautiful displays. And then this fictional character who has also meant so much to me and so much to my community, that was brought to life again by this person in such a big way. Like, it cannot be understated. And I know that there are a lot of people that have certain feelings about superhero movies or Marvel movies. I'm not here to have that debate with you. Feel how you want to feel about superhero movies. But what you can't deny is that when that movie came out, the groundswell around it, the pride and celebration of Black culture, Black features, Black actors, creators happened from coast to coast and then across the globe.
You know, when I think back, and I mean, I saw 42 and I saw Marshall, and like I remember when they announced Black Panther, like very much how people who love Lord of the Rings were like always make that reference, like, oh, Gondor calls for aid, and like everyone's like up, and everyone just, the masses gathered. And it felt like to me that like when they were like Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, like it felt to me personally like there was like this horn going off. Like this alarm was like, hey, hey, big moment right here, right here, right here, like right here, right now. Are you ready? Are you ready right here, right now? And like people just in masses just rose up, and they're like, oh no, we go into this movie. We getting all the fam, 20 deep, 30 deep. We selling this out. Like we are coming together. And like, I mean, I think we waited 2 hours in line at the IMAX that me and my husband went to. And and you saw people in their kente just standing proud, right? And mind you, this is a work of fiction. This is not like history. But in this moment, it was also kind of a moment in history for
Mm-hmm.
us. So
Yep.
people are like, oh no, coming through for this, representing for this. Like we got to represent for our boy here, because look what he's doing for us.
Mhm.
Look at what this team did for
Yeah,
us.
like everybody, from and not just Chadwick, but Ryan Coogler directing it,
Right.
and
Right. That
everybody that was in
whole
it,
production team.
Letitia Wright, Denai Guerrera, Lupita Nyong'o, like everybody,
Everybody.
everybody, I mean, you it cannot be understated the impact that this person has had on generations of people. And it cannot be understated of the value that he has for generations of Black and Brown people with the work that he has left behind. And then I switched on the personal side because I just kept seeing more and more people, both just regular ass homies down the block and, celebrities and, politicians and people of note sharing, their feelings of loss, but also celebrating Chadwick and the work that he had done. And one of the things that started to come through for me before people started talking about it was that I noticed that so many people who had worked with Chadwick, the way that they were talking was like they didn't know that he had been sick. And that started to surprise me because, being completely transparent with you guys, our mother passed away from colon cancer. It is very evident when someone reaches stage 3 and stage 4 that they are not well. Chadwick was diagnosed stage 3 in 2016. So, like, I have notes over here because I put together a list, right? And of just the stuff that I had seen Chadwick in. Not his full filmography because, man, that shit is deep. But I was like, okay, so in 2013, you had Jackie Robinson, not diagnosed yet. So you had him as Jackie Robinson in 42. Since he had been, everything said that he had been diagnosed 4 years ago. That puts his diagnosis at 2016, right? So in 2014, he does James Brown in Get On Up. Still not diagnosed. The next movie that he does is Captain America Civil War. This is the year that he's diagnosed stage 3. So when I think about 42, it wasn't a huge, massive theatrical release, right? And the same thing with James Brown, the James Brown movie. Like it went out, but it didn't hit like
Right.
a list summer blockbuster. It wasn't on, thousands of screens across the country, right?
Right.
This man is in a movie when he's diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in a movie that is a summer blockbuster on thousands of screens across the country movie, and nobody except for his wife, his manager, and like 2 other people know that he has cancer and is battling it.
I think in the course since then, I think he had multiple surgeries.
Oh, yeah, and
Countless.
countless and treatments, okay, and still was able to physically be present, training, buff, when in 2017 he does Marshall as Thurgood Marshall. And then in 2018, you have both Black Panther and Infinity War come out. So this entire time, he's shooting these 3 movies while battling against cancer.
Stage 3 cancer.
Okay. At some point, it progresses. But even at this point, 2018, 2019, we have Endgame. And then you have Da 5 Bloods in 2020. Like that body of work from when he was
Right.
diagnosed. And there are other movies in between. I just specifically focused on things that I had seen, which, I have watched Da 5 Bloods. I didn't watch it when it came out, I'll be honest. After Chadwick passed, I was like, I got to watch this because this is the most recent thing that he was in. It was in my queue, but I was like, I'll eventually get to
I'll
it like
get to
one
it.
Saturday night, and I was like, nope, now I gotta watch it. And to most of the feedback that people had about the movie of like, this is Spike
This is
Lee.
not Spike Lee at his best.
I mean, basically, the stuff boiled down to you watch the movie because of Chadwick's performance, because Chadwick is really good in this movie, but the movie itself isn't really great. It's not a great Spike Lee movie, but it's a Spike Lee movie.
Okay. No, I have
Okay,
every
there's some
intention of
great
watching this
moments in
house.
it, and those kinds of things. But I watched it because I was like, I have to watch this, because it may be the last thing that I get to see this man in, and I wanted to pay his legacy proper respect. And I was like, so the least that I can do is this. But like, one of his co-stars, I forget the guy's name, but he was on Good Morning America, and they were talking about Chadwick, and his passing, and he got really emotional, and he was like, I think about Chadwick now, and I think about him with a little bit of regret, because my wife is a huge Chadwick fan, and when I was filming with him and we would talk on the phone, she'd ask me what Chadwick was like. And he's like, I basically, said that I thought he was a little precious, that maybe the Black Panther stuff had gotten to his face, because we were on set shooting. And like after every scene, there was like this Chinese acupuncturist that was massaging his shoulders and his back and doing stuff. And his girlfriend was there massaging his feet. And, all these people in my mind are pampering him. And now knowing what I know, they were just there trying to take care of him because he was sick and battling. So here I am judging this guy and judging him harshly, not knowing that he was going through this horrible battle, basically by himself in this small bubble with people. And he didn't say the words, but like you could tell that he felt like, how much of an asshole am I to have thought
Right.
that
Am I
about
the
him?
asshole? Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
you
I was
are.
actually the asshole in this situation. And that's like, for me, when I started this piece to talk about Chadwick, my big takeaway was, and then I started seeing articles come out where people were like, look, like you look at the entertainment industry and everybody knows everybody's business, right? Like we know that somebody's nudes are going to drop 3 hours before those nudes are going to drop, right? Like if somebody has a fight in their house, TMZ knows about it. World Stars probably got video of
World
it. Like,
star.
like
TMZ.
there's no secrecy and there's no privacy
Right.
supposedly
Well,
in
when
Hollywood
you
anymore.
are a public figure
Your
and
life
that
is
is your
like public, right?
right.
But here was this man, and so for me, like this was the takeaway. Here was this man who was very much in the public eye. You look at the career and the works that have been done, like those are all works that were seen by people. The families of the people that he portrayed, I guarantee you, were very vested in those projects. And the world became vested in Chadwick when we got to see him. Really, to be honest, the world became invested when he became Black Panther. When you count them up, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 movies that he was this one character that really meant a lot to the world, right?
World. Right?
And four people for 4 years knew that he was
Are carrying this burden with him
quietly. Not one of
quietly.
them leaked it to anything. Like there was no like Inquirer says that Chadwick is ill. Like that shit never happened. And the Inquirer just looks for like the smallest grain of truth and blows that shit up into whatever they want it to be to sell, the tabloid, right?
Right.
But there was never like Chadwick deathly ill on death's door. Like none of that. And to me that key thing was because you shared it with the right four people. He shared it with the four people that had his best interests at heart, that valued him and what he wanted, to keep their mouths shut. Like think about like how quick people like turn tail to get the book deal to share the inside scoop on Pick a Thing, right?
Right. Yeah.
And we lap that shit up.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do. I admit it.
And and I admit it, it's a human nature thing. There's a curiosity that is piqued there about this figure that you want more insight into because you don't have access to them. Like I absolutely understand why tabloid media exists, why paparazzi exists, like because we live to consume that stuff because gossip is juicy, and also there's the curiosity factor of I don't know
Like,
what your
oh, I
life is
don't know,
like.
I don't know how the other side lives, and this is my
Right.
scoop into the everyday
And
bullshit.
this is my little moment to get into what that world must be like. So I'm
Like,
going to savor all of that. But
lap it up.
the
Num 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 num
the
num.
the four people that knew were four people that were for him. And that's why there were no leaks for 4 years. That's 4 years of this man having surgery, going through chemo, all while shooting all of these movies, which movie shoots are not easy to do. You know,
Nope.
depending upon your movie, you're talking about 3 months, 6 months, shooting, dubbing, all that kind of stuff. Then you've got press junkets. Like, think of all of the press junkets, the Met Gala like appearance. Like, he was going through it when he went to the Met Gala
Right.
and flossed on all the hoes, as far as I'm concerned, at the Met Gala, right?
Right.
I was like, this is the thing that beyond what he has meant to me in the movies that I've enjoyed him in, beyond what he has meant to me as embodying and bringing to the big screen, a character that I have loved for most of my adult life and did it really well. What I have learned from Chadwick Boseman is who's in your circle, who you trust, who you share all of yourself with really does matter, and you need to be very careful about that. You know, because it really made me think, even in my own personal relationships, there's a lot of people that I'm like real quick to say, oh, this is my friend, we do this together, we do that together. I'm very quick to, like, once I've given somebody the label of friend, be like, okay, now I can share my world with you. I can share like all of my things of like who I am and my little peccadillos and my funny little sayings and like all that other bullshit. And I can crack my inside jokes with you, and I can, be my just really inappropriate self and all that kind of stuff, because I immediately have, once I put that label of friend on you, oh, we have this trust. So, like, not to run your mouth to anybody about this stuff, because this is just a you and I conversation. This is not a everybody in the world conversation. Right. Like, and I've become more protective of those things. Definitely some things that I learned in my 30s that I carried with me into my 40s. And so I'm much more protective about that now. But I was just so amazed, because when you think about Hollywood and you think about the entertainment industry, like, there's a massive chunk of the industry that is specifically just focused on getting scoops.
Right.
Entertainment Tonight, TMZ, like, there's a whole industry that is just made up to get all these little morsels and regurgitate those out for people. I mean, people as an example, right? Like, and nobody in his circle that knew this truth valued sharing it to any of those places for personal gain more than they valued that man
Him.
and their relationship with him. And I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. I want for all of the people that I have relationships with to value me and our relationship more than momentary gain that they could get someplace else. To me, that speaks volumes to the kind of person that you are, that I will hold your secret. Because when I think, like, throughout my life, I haven't had anybody that held any of my secrets all the way through.
Yeah.
Like,
I can
ain't
hear
none of
it.
my secrets that stayed secret. Not a damn one.
So I'm sitting in a really weird place with
Mm.
this. Like I am I am devastated. Like I am clearly sad. Like I feel because of the walk down this road that we have traveled, and you know, personally, our mother, when she got diagnosed with her stage, I can't remember if she was stage 3 at the beginning or she was already stage 4 when they found it. But I remember when we were told how hesitant she was to even say anything for like 2 weeks because it was right around Christmas and it was her favorite holiday. But, me being, home with her, I'm like, no. I'm like, we got to tell the family. Like, you got to tell your sister. Like, at least your twin sister. Like, you came into this with this woman. Like, how do you, if the roles were reversed and you came back from a trip after Christmas and then she told you and you told her that you knew before she left, like, how do you let someone walk away thinking everything's okay when it clearly isn't? um and you know a lot of people, because I was up when the news broke about Chadwick, which is very surprising for me because I am not a night owl. Generally, I'm in bed by 9:30 every night. Like, I am usually a creature of habit, and I was up, and I just, when my notification went up on my phone, I just kind of stopped what I was doing. And I had friends on my Facebook page who were like, I didn't even know. I don't think it's right that he didn't share it. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, stop. And I'm like, that is a true testament to the Black experience in this country. Because what are we taught? We are taught to never show our weaknesses, never talk to our vulnerabilities. Because depending on who you say that to, they could turn it around and it become ammunition to pierce your side. So here is this man who's worked so hard to get into this career that he loved. Like, I think he went to Oxford. I know Denzel Washington and a couple of others did, like, I think, scholarships for,
Yeah, so basically,
like, him, Felicia Rashad, like, they all did, like,
yeah.
sponsorships.
So basically, I think Chadwick was in a program, an acting workshop that Felicia Rashad was doing, and she so believed in his talent that she nominated him to go do this study at Oxford, and he had the money. And so, on underneath, without his knowledge at the time, Denzel actually sponsored him so that he
Mm-hmm.
could go and do this
Go.
program, even though they had never met at
Met.
that point. Um,
But yeah, so I sat there and I'm like, no, I'm like, that is the truest fashion. We are taught to never show people how much in pain we are if we're suffering. You don't let up the ghost, because more people are out to hurt you than help you. So you don't give them the ammunition to do the damage. So with people like, I wish he had said something so that we could have been supportive. It's like, one, what could you do
right,
in that situation?
right.
And here he is doing all of these big things. And could you imagine the spin on that? Like, if it had broken out during this time, like, it could have easily impacted all the positive and the good that came out of all of that work that he did, because it could easily get diminished to, good movie, sad Chadwick Boseman is, like, dying. Let's pity this man. Like, it could have been spun. It could have been dropped like a hot potato.
Right,
So,
because the movie only did so well because people went to go see it because they knew he was dying, as opposed to going to see it over and over again
like,
because
the
it was
narrative
good.
would have been completely different and the effect
Mhm.
would not have been the same. So, if I were in a position where I was a public figure going through all of that, I know, especially because, I mean, that's just kind of how we've been taught, and it's ingrained in us to, internalize and battle silently, because we don't want to be a burden onto anyone else. But also in that public spotlight, like that would be far more damning than if he were a regular man fighting the battle, you know?
Mhm.
So I went and the few friends who were like, I wish he had said, I'm like, no. I'm like, it wasn't your business, for one. And two, what would you would have pitied him, like, oh man, it really sucks he has cancer. I mean, that movie was okay. Like, you would find ways to knock it down.
Mhm.
And here he is trying to build this thing, which him and that team completely successfully did, and for all the blood, sweat, the tears, the pain, because chemo's not pretty at all.
Mhm. Nope.
The fact that he stared mortality in the face and said, not yet, and kept pushing. And, like I'm getting choked up. It is a testament to, you know, to that pride. It's a testament to that drive that I wish that I had. And I mean, I don't know. I have not been in a position where I would have to persevere in that manner, but knowing what he did and how he took every step, painfully probably. Like, I bet each day had a new set of painful challenges that he swallowed down, put on the face, did the stunts, and then regrouped at home and reattacked it. And that's that black spirit that I honor and cherish and respect. And if we could just get a nugget of that and carry that, then we can continue to carry him with us in everything that's going on.
Well, I don't know that I can really add anything to that because that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think that, you know, I have seen people make comments and really have some, I don't really have any other way to put it, divisive conversations around not getting why people mourn actors when they die if they don't know
Uh, people,
or
people mourn Princess Diana. People are
hold
going
on,
to people are going to mourn Betty White when she
hold
goes.
on. Wash your mouth out with soap. Um,
Let me knock on all the wood. Love you, Betty White.
over here threatening Nashville
I'm not.
treasures,
I am not threatening her. But
but
anyway,
that really bothered me. Um, and I had a couple of heated exchanges, and where I left things with, and where I'll leave things with you guys, is that whether you know a public figure or know a person personally, we can all understand and should be able to freely empathize with loss. We've experienced it, so we know what it feels like to lose something that's important. We know what it's like to lose a family member, a close family member, or friend who means the world to you for whatever reasons. And I think that sometimes it's difficult for people to understand how a portrayal of another person or a fictionalized character can have that same kind of meaning to an individual, but they can. Think about how you're inspired. How many artists have you heard do interviews and say they were inspired by some other artist they heard as a child and that really lit something within them, and that's what made them pursue this path for themselves? And so when that person that inspired them in the first place is no longer with us, there is a deep, profound loss, and you get to mourn that loss. We all get to feel how we feel. And so, whether you're mourning a loss or celebrating a life or just
something in
kind
between.
of something in between, or just watching all these things unfold and you're not yet sure how to process or going through it, know that however you go through it and how you process and how you deal with losing something that's meaningful to you, whether that's a person that you know directly or not, you're entitled to. And you get to feel how you feel. And you get to feel how you feel for however you want to feel. What I hope you take from that at the end is inspiration to move forward with some new positivity. I know that I am, after losing this actor who has portrayed so many amazing characters that I've enjoyed the body of work of for many, many years. And I will continue to celebrate his work and what he has meant to people, especially the charity work that he's done. There's just a lot that I think many people could learn from a life well lived, cut too short. Cancer sucks.
Cancer, fuck cancer. Cancer sucks.
We can all agree about that. Where I will end our tribunal talk this week is make sure that you tell the people in your life that you love them and how much they mean to you, even if it's corny. I saw a meme and I was like, this actually is like not a meme. It's really good life advice. We need to normalize telling our friends that we love them all the time.
I agree.
Tell people that you love them. If there's an artist who you love their work, tell them. Don't be
Don't wait.
bashful about that. Okay? You might not think that it means anything to them, or people will tell you that you're weird, but if you want to tweet somebody and be like, look, I just love what you do and I love everything about you that I know about you and I hope you have a great day, do it. Do it. It's better to do it than not. Don't have regrets at the end of the day, because that might be the end of all the things. You don't get another day to like make it better. So it's time to do our business because it's time to wrap this boy up. I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation today. We touched on a lot, but it was a good tribunal. Um, uh, if you enjoy the tribunal, then make sure that you hang out on our social channels to find out when we're doing these bad boys. We post our schedule on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find us as the video shows down below at Black and Pat on all of those platforms. You can also find us on YouTube as Black and Pat as well. Our entire VOD history will eventually be up on YouTube. I'm very close to getting my new computer, so I should have some new videos up. We're also now starting to post our VODs for our tribunals on our Facebook page. So if you're not able to join us here live on Twitch, twitchtv.com/blackandpat, then you'll be able to catch them eventually as a series over on our Facebook page. Share them with your friends. You can comment there as well. We might be a little delayed in responding to those comments, but you can. If you want to interact with us live during a show, then make sure that you check us out here on our Twitch channel. You can find me Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. for the Wednesday wind down for a nice, chill, just hang out, chatting kind of evening. Sometimes I have a topic, sometimes I have three, sometimes I have none, sometimes I have wine. But you can join me starting at 7 for the Wednesday wind down, just to like crap your hump day with the nice amount of yeah. And then on Fridays, you can join BC Manda for BC Manda Plays, where she's playing a bunch of different things. She's playing through The Last of Us Part 2. She's playing through Man of Medan. And you might ever so often catch, a Fall Guys when you got to loosen up that palate or something else. Who knows? You'll know if you tune in at 7 every Friday night to join me in chat and her on cam play through something new. So, if you want to get the schedule, follow us on our social, check us out on our YouTube channel, check us out here on Twitch. Give us a subscribe if you like what we're doing, because your support means the world to us, and every new subscriber allows us to understand what content works, what content doesn't, and it also gives us some really great footing to help build out this channel even more. So, sub, follow. Right now it's Subtober, so those subs, they're cheaper. You can get a 6-month sub for 30% off. You can get a 3-month sub for 20% off. Ooh, ooh.
And I, ooh.
So much. I have ooped, but don't you oop. Don't miss it. Get them subs. Get them subs so that you can help support our channel or any of the other great content creators that are on the platform that you enjoy. Subs mean the
Ooh,
world to all of us. So please, 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 please take advantage of Subtober. Save yourself some money, but help support the channels that you love because we get the same amount whether you bought a discounted sub or not. So Twitch eats the 20% or 30% off, not the creator. So let's do that. Let's do that. And then last but not least, we do have a website, blackcompat.com. That's where you'll find our editorials, written pieces, and eventually all of our posts that we put up on YouTube. We'll have those videos available on our site, as well as some other content that we're going to be doing, hot takes and other things. So engage with us wherever you like, however you like. Check out the Tribunal. Join us for Wednesday wind downs, Let's Plays, and so much more. It's been an absolutely fantastic, fantastic conversation. I had a good one, sis. Did you have a good time?
I did. I did.
All
At
right.
first, I was worried, but then we turned it around, and I'm glad that we ended on a strong note.
And that's the way to do it. I'm BC Rowe.
And I'm BC Manda.
Just remember, always and
Never or.